Before I get into this month's rant, I'd like to take a minute of your time to tell you two bits of news. The first is I have just published my first audiobook. Many of you have already read my book, New World Order, No Way Out. For those of you who don't know the book, it's a short non-fiction read that lays out the facts behind many of today's popular conspiracy theories about the 1%ers, the richest and most powerful people in the world, and that they may be playing a deadly game, with us as the pawns. The second morsel of news is that you can get this short but very eye-opening book on Audible with me narrating it. Wait for it, for free. If you use the link below, you can get a free trial of Audible and download New World Order No Way Out for absolutely no charge. By using the link below, if you decide to stay with Audible, I get a small commission from Amazon for introducing you. And even if you decide not to become an Audible subscriber, you still get to keep my book. Not a bad deal, eh? I started last month's newsletter with a joke. Seems like a good place to start. This one goes like this. One day, when the creator was making the universe, he was feeling particularly mischievous and decided to make 9 different sexes, but tell us there were only 2. In the world of sexual politics, this would help to explain a lot, but social confusion is not limited to being confounded by the opposite gender. I, for one, have spent my life often being totally stumped by the behaviour of others. What if nature is being mischievous, like God in that joke, and has led us to believe that Homo sapiens is a single species when actually we are several? How much would that explain? Simon Jones, Professor of Human Genetics at University College London, has explained that considering billions of genes get shuffled to create each new person, it is totally understandable that there is a wide variation in the population. Now, I am not an expert in statistics, but just consider this. There are 52 playing cards in a standard deck. Every time they are shuffled, the number of possible sequences they can end in is calculated as 52 factorial, which equates to a 64-digit number starting 80658. Therefore, there is an almost zero possibility that the cards that you have just shuffled have ever been in exactly that same sequence before in the history of the universe. Now consider that our DNA is made up of approximately 3 billion genetic bases arranged into pairs, and these get rearranged in every new baby. If 52 factorial was a 64-digit number, imagine what 3 billion factorial would look like. And this is why, with the exception of identical twins, which have nearly 100% identical DNA, every person that has ever lived or will ever live, including everyone that is alive today, will have a distinctly unique DNA sequence. We may all be equal, but we are definitely not all the same, genetically speaking. You truly are unique, just like everyone else. When these genetic differences were first discovered, it unfortunately added weight to the racist arguments that had raged for centuries before, leading to genocides around the world based on an idea of some races possessing inferior DNA that had to be eradicated in favour of a genetically superior race. The most devastating of these was, of course, Hitler's extermination of 8 million Jews, homosexuals, blacks and gypsies in the late 1930s and early 1940s. But the scientific truth is that the genetic variance between human races is a paltry 1/10 of 1%. We are all genetically unique, but only by a really tiny amount. So does that tiny amount account for the marked differences between us? Now think about this. If we compare our DNA to that of our close cousins, great apes such as gorillas, we see that the difference is also minuscule, a mere 1 to 2%. Yet scientists are in no doubt that humans and gorillas are not only extremely different, but also a totally different species. So 0.1% and we are still in the same species, but 1 to 2% and we are not. The question is, how much does DNA have to differ for two animals to be considered separate species? In 1952, evolutionary biologist Ernst Mayr popularized the biological species concept, BSC, which says that for two animals to be considered the same species, they must be able to breed and produce viable offspring. In other words, the offspring must be fertile. So I think we have to concede that although every human is genetically unique, the difference is insignificant. And on the second count, all humans can certainly mate, whatever race they belong to or the geographical location they come from. And they can produce viable children. This is scientifically true, at least. I'm sure we all sympathize with people that cannot have children, which is very sad and can be devastating. All this delving into biological reasons for the sometimes marked behavioral differences between us has really not helped at all. Regardless of race, colour or nationality, we are all the same species and we will have to look elsewhere to explain why we so often baffle each other. While I was pondering this thorny problem, I looked away from Google in desperation, hoping that the universe might take pity on me and give me a clue, or at least a starting point. And there it was. Nestling between John le Carré's The Night Manager and Eric Hobsbawm's The Age of Revolution was John Gray's Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Is that it? Are the divisive differences between us purely social constructs? We live on a planet that is home to more than 7 billion people. As we have established, there are only very small genetic differences between each and every one of us. And yet these slight variations lead to some of us being good at painting while others can juggle chainsaws. What I mean is that we all have sets of skills and abilities that differ from the skills and abilities of others. There are lots of crossovers, but each particular skill set is unique to that individual. This regularly throws up giants among us like Einstein, Gandhi and Tesla. By the way, that is not an exhaustive list. There have been plenty of other notable humans throughout the ages who have stood out because of their extraordinary skill set. But for most of us, we really do not stand out as much as we would like. Even if you are a private person that does not crave grand public acknowledgement, we do all want to be valued and appreciated by others, maybe even loved. Add to that our tendency to be homophilic, to seek out people who have similar views, care about similar things and look like us. And so the juggling act begins. We want to be individuals but avoid being too maverick that we may appear different from our group. We further cement our group by vilifying all other groups. And so we end up being slaves to the cultural fashions of our own group and aggressively rejecting the ideas and beliefs of other groups. This sounds a bit like football supporters or neighbourhoods or, dare I say it, religions? I think this is more tribal behaviour than racial, as it comes from a general desire to identify with a particular social group rather than a specific race. But the important thing for me is that this tendency to mould ourselves to the set of cultural and behavioural norms of our chosen group strips us of who we are as individuals, and we end up acting the way we believe our group wants us to act rather than being ourselves. This might go some way to explain why a very decent chap turns into a hooligan, baying for blood every Sunday on the football terraces, or why a loving husband and father can coldly exterminate his neighbours in a concentration camp. I was only following orders. Whose orders? The orders of the group with which he identifies. So I guess that I am suggesting that we may well be much more in tune with each other's needs and sensitivities than we might think. That what is getting in the way is an appropriation of a set of cultural rules that do not belong to any individual, but are a chimera of beliefs belonging exclusively to a local group, and lead to the individuals of that group acting out of character for those individuals. I suppose this would mean that in order to be more inclusive of others, one has to be more individual? Wow, the baffling problem of the behaviour of others just got even stranger. And why am I saying all of this to you? I suppose I'm simply attempting to express myself as an individual.